Hello, and welcome back to Season 3 of the Green Grassroots of Football with me, Andy Glover, and
Me, Mark Grinter.
cue the music. I'm sure you've all missed our classic theme tune, especially Mark, who makes an effort to listen to every episode just because he loves the music so much, don't you, Mark?
I don't miss why I've listened to everyone constantly on repeat.
Just for the music. Just
and then
for
I switch it off after the music.
Classic music. And I'd just like to thank our sponsor, Rachel's Bookkeeping, for all of your bookkeeping needs. Unfortunately, Ben cannot make this episode, nor the next, because as usual, we're recording 2 episodes at the same time. And for those with an interest in background noise, we are in our second home of Catecham Leisure Centre, whilst Mark's daughter, Immy, has a swimming lesson. But first, we'll start with a saying. On me head, son. So yes, we're kicking off Season 3 talking about heading. And in particular, the FA's decision to ban heading from under 9 down, with that increasing by year over the next 3 years until the current under 9s or under 11s. So that's basically, under 9s down this year, under 10s down next year, under 11s down the year after. I think we'll start off. We'll look at the law as it is going to be. So, after a deliberate heading the ball, it's an offence punishable by an indirect free kick. The indirect free kick is taken at the point where the ball was deliberately headed, except where the player deliberately heads the ball within their own penalty area, and then the ref stops the game and restarts with an indirect free kick to the opposition from the nearest sideline of the penalty area where the offence took place. Touchline restarts, kick-ins and dribblings are introduced instead of throw-ins to create more technical opportunities, the ball at their feet for more playing time. The kicker can take the pass in, dribble in, may touch the ball again before it's touched by another player. The ball must be stationary on the touchline to the point where it left the pitch, and only the kicker may be off the pitch, yes, as in a throw-in, but you kick it. All opponents must stand at least 5 yards from the point of the touchline where the pass-in or dribbling is to be taken from. A goal cannot be scored directly from a pass-in, and the ball is in play when it's kicked in and clearly moves. And then there are sanctions. From the start of the 24-25 season, there'll be no disciplinary sanctions applied for a deliberate header unless the action is considered a persistent deliberate offence, which could then result in a caution. And I assume by that they mean someone's taken a shot and you're headering it off the line deliberately, and then you do it again and again and again, I assume.
I mean, again, you'd hope under 9.
Under 9. Yeah, well, you get some kids at a young age who are so determined to stop a goal going in, they're going to do it. So, why the trial? Well, the possibility of a link between heading the ball and neurodegenerative disease has been a hot topic in football for several years, and many former professional players suffering from dementia and other complications. A watershed moment arrived in 2002 when a coroner ruled that the death of former West Bromwich Albion and England striker Jeff Astle was the result of industrial disease owing to repeated heading of a football. So, I mean, what do we think of that?
It's... If we were using the same footballs as we were back when Mr. Astle...
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Jeff Astle used a really heavy...
leather with laces and when it got wet.
Very heavy, almost like... They used to say it was like almost heading concrete, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he was a centre forward, and even the style, you could argue, you could talk about the style of play.
Yeah.
You know, the style of play was so different back then.
It
was very much deliver balls.
Yeah, and hundreds. And I mean, and again, there's probably there is obviously some scientists and stuff who've done it who anticipate what it is with the lighter balls and the style. And is it as important? Obviously it is, because they must have done the studies and they've done the research. And I think at that age, the brains are developing. I can see some merits for it.
I mean, you got to look even now. I mean, we all know the ex-Rovers player Marcus Stewart.
Yeah.
He's been diagnosed with motor neurone disease, but he was a striker. I mean, I've seen studies which show the players most likely to head the ball are strikers and defenders. Goalies never head the ball.
I mean, I think again with MND, more research will come out that it seems to be a high percentage of people who do high contact sports like rugby
Yeah, it's
players.
not football, is it?
No, but people who might have head
trauma, is it?
Yeah.
But it's boxing, rugby.
And the football with the heading. So I'm sure there is something to it. And again, up to under 12s, how many kids head the ball properly? In a game, how many times do you see it? I don't know. Maybe more with boys. You might get a couple.
Well, I mean, my girls' team now have been going 2 years. I don't think I've seen one of them head the ball. All you see is hands go up to protect the face when the ball even bounces, let alone go head height.
Yeah. So I get it to a degree, and I think it. Again, the FA then has to look at lots of other things, the rules of playing that type of football. Small football is almost the same as like when you go to places like goals and the 5-a-side, 7-a-side that adults play. There's no heading allowed there and above thing. So I get it to a degree. Then they have to maybe amend a few of the other rules, because it probably does encourage in some ways the passing of the ball, keeping it on the ground, as I think it was Cloughie said. Football was meant to be played on the grass, not in the clouds.
Otherwise, you'd put a pitch up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're slightly misquoting that, but you get the idea. Yeah.
Something along those lines. So,
I mean, there are some other studies. In 2019, a study led by a consultant neuropathologist, Dr. Willie Stewart, found that professional footballers were 3.5 times more likely to die of a neurodegenerative disease than age-matched members of the population.
Yeah.
But a 2021 study discovered that goalkeepers are at no greater risks than the general population. So it clearly shows that goalkeepers, because of where they play, are just the same as normal population. So whereas players on the pitch who are going to use their head 3.5 more times more likely.
You're going back with what the ball was like and what the ball is now. But I suppose the way the ball is, it might be coming at you harder any case. So the heading, and obviously it's more intense now. There's more games for certainly the professionals and stuff than there was back in the 60s, 70s.
So there's more lighter ball, but more games.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And again, if they didn't do anything and they knew these facts, and in 50, and people kept dying from it, they said, well, why haven't you done anything? So I get why they've done it to a degree.
I mean,
to a lot.
Further guidance has been issued. At the beginning of the 21-22 season, the FA set a recommended limit of 10 high-force headers per week in training, which sounds good, but to me that's a box-ticking exercise, because how many players are standing there going, oh, that's one header, there's the second header, great, oh, I've got a third header here.
No.
It's ridiculous, really.
Yeah, so this...
But the idea was... I think the idea was right, but ridiculous thing to say, really.
And I think... And hopefully, I imagine these rules will get tweaked as it goes on as well. They've done trials and stuff and studies, and hopefully it'll develop. And other things might change from it.
Well, I mean, there's reasons beyond the potential impact to the brain from heading for the youth trial, because banning heading also mitigates the risk from head-to-head injury, elbow-to-head injury, and head-on-ground collisions as well. So, you're not just going up for head and falling and banging the head, or someone's elbowing you. Yeah. So there's those risks as well, which hopefully should be reduced. You should see less of that. Yeah. Which is a good thing. Okay? I mean, anything like that is going to be a good thing. So I'm not knocking it. Is it the right way of doing it?
Probably not at the moment. As I
say that simply because is the ball up to under 9 this year and 10 next year and 11 the year after in the air? If we're honest,
my girls are under 11, so it doesn't affect us.
But how many times does the ball go in the air?
I've now got a girl that can throw the ball from the halfway line into the penalty box.
Well, how many of your girls would then go for a header? How many say out of 10 girls, how many would legitimately go and try and head it?
2 or 3, if that. But
That's what I'm saying, at most.
I would then wonder. Comes in, if say she was in your team in 2 years, and that ball is going into that box, head height. They've all then got to wait. This is now to the balls where they can kick it. So you might then get 2 or 3 who are coming right about, and then. So are you going to get more broken legs?
I mean, one of the things they say is the reason they want to do this is to try and produce better ways of bringing it down on your chest, on your knee, by your, rather
is that physically going to happen? I mean, at this age group, they're all quite bunched. It could get quite bunched any case.
Well, you know what? This is something we'll come to next week. I will just mention it here. One of the things they talk about is that all it will do is competitive managers and coaches will use this to do things like load the box and get the ball in there.
Yeah,
they will. It's supposed to encourage short passing from the sideline, short this, short that, and encourage football. But actually, real competitive coaches anywhere in the anywhere near the halfway line onwards would look to go touch, deliver, and actually put that ball in the area where it's going to cause mayhem. So it's not, it's just as much about reducing heading as also trying to produce people who will play and pass.
Yeah.
But I think it'll have the opposite effect because people will look to gain that competitive advantage, won't they?
Yeah, I mean, people, again, there will be coaches who will look to maximise it and who will. There's bound to be. I mean, I'll be honest, I've got a girl. I mean, we haven't got it this year, but I said her throw-ins are just immense. And if I was in that position, I would be right. Get the ball. We'll take any throw-in, and it'll be lobbed in high because it can't be headed. Right, watch the bounce and hit it.
Question is though, under 12, they can start heading the ball.
Yeah.
But they've never been allowed to.
No.
Suddenly they're thrown on a pitch.
Yeah.
And you've got to teach them and expect them to head the ball.
I mean, I feel sorry
safely.
for the coaches. As soon as that under 11 season's finished, all they'll be doing all summer is heading the bloody ball.
And it's almost like repetitive impact over the summer on it.
Oh, it's bound to be.
So it's. I'm not saying you're going to get as much headers, but you think actually, because I've never really. I don't think I've ever practiced heading in 3 teams. I don't think I've ever actually practiced heading. And what I said, this is the party head to use one session to show them.
Yeah.
But coaches are now going to come in and go like this, they do, and do repetitively.
Yeah.
And you probably end up doing more heading practice in that summer than you would have done over 5 years of game and training, and possibly more than actual playing as well.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to want to catch up and get their players to do it properly.
Yeah.
You end up doing more than you've ever done it.
Yeah.
And you ever would have done it.
Yeah. So and there will be coaches that do that.
So is it going to have a negative and opposite effect? And is the ban actually going to go the wrong way?
I have, again, this is just my opinion. My own personal guess, is it'll be next 3 years. They say under 12s, and it'll get dragged all the way through to youth football.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I mean, they're always, as we know, I mean, it's slightly digressing. We all know they're looking to bring in the 3v3 for under 7s and under 8s, which is what they do in Sweden.
Yeah.
I was looking at a chart, and in Sweden they don't go 11 aside until under 16.
Which is probably what size they should do.
Yeah, so they go 3v3 for 2 years.
Yeah.
5v5 for 2 years. 7v7, I think, it's for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then 9v9, and then finally for 3 move 4 years, and then 11v11 as under 16s.
And I think eventually,
which is perhaps when the heading would come in.
I think that's what the FA probably wants, but no, they can't
do it straight away
because there'd be too much outrage. And bringing this sort of stuff in gradually, and then that'll come in, and then suddenly, and that they will put, and that is probably eventually the long term aim. They're not going to admit that or anything like that. I think that's probably where it is, and in 5 to 10 years' time, that'll be the way it is.
No heading to your 16, 3v3, 5v5, 7, 9, and then 11.
And you probably will create more technical players by doing it that way. I think, unfortunately, for the next few years, there's going to be
people who grow
guinea
up,
pigs and stuff.
people who grow up long balling it and saying this isn't how he did it.
I think that is
Moaning about it. Yeah,
it's going to be the mantra that they will say. That's how it. I think personally, I think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that will make sense. But until you get there, you're going to have this middling sort of, well, it doesn't quite work. But the long, and in some ways, I'd rather the FA did come out and say, this is the 10-year plan.
Yeah. So you know where we're going.
Yeah. And so this is why we're doing it. And it said, I think the heading is, and the brain and everything like that, and injuries, are fantastic. But it might produce England best technical players, because at the moment we're probably not the most technical country. Like you said, there are other teams that can play football on the ground and stuff. Whether it'll then take away some of the England passion and stuff like that, that's again up for debate. So the long-term plan probably is okay, but this time in the middle is a right doodah. But there you go.
So let's advocate for it a bit more. So the brain injury group looked at a few issues. So you can get acute brain injuries such as concussions. I mean, we've all seen concussions on the pitch. It's not a nice thing to happen. We've seen it in adults. I mean, with children, I think you'll have 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
3 weeks
minimum.
with no football, no sport.
And it's a gradual thing as well. You're not allowed to do it. I think might be a week to I think it's 2 weeks, a week or 2 weeks where nothing, and then it's non-contact, and then it's the games. I think at least 3 weeks, if not 4 now.
So I don't think that would come from the heading, but it would certainly come from two players going for the head and knocking into each other. I think that's more likely where it's going to come from.
An unintentional header, which would this, where a ball is smashed hard, and say a free kick and it whacks them.
Yeah, I've seen the balls hit so hard, and even in the Premier League, you've seen players get hit so hard that it's almost knocked out.
Well, I think as I said, some of the shots 80, 90 miles an hour, and no matter how much that's going to hurt if you're not prepared and not set for it.
Absolutely. So second impact syndrome is another one. When a child suffers a second concussion before the symptoms of the first one have subsided. So obviously, if you've not necessarily realised they've had concussion, or they've come back too early, and so again, that can definitely be caused by being hit by a ball or just going for a header. Absolutely. So that's two things from the acute brain injuries. Long-term brain health concerns. So chronic traumatic encephalopathy. CTE is a progressive degenerative disease found in individuals with a history of repetitive brain trauma, including concussions and subconcussive hits. So, that's one of the reasons why obviously they're looking to do this, because imagine you're getting smashed in the head, or you're especially again, not so much I think heading the ball, but this is more about those players who are going for headers, heading people, whacking it, landing badly on the ground. It does happen. You see it. You see it a lot. So,
and again, there could be other. I think it might have been a Premier League player who's gone up over the weekend and has landed awkwardly, and has done his leg in and stuff, just because no foul was committed. It was just the way he's landed. Again, I think.
Yeah, there was one, wasn't there?
I think the FA, like I said, I would hope this is their long-term plan, but they might not come out with that.
Another one is cognitive and developmental issues. So obviously repeated brain injuries and head injuries can affect cognitive functions such as attention, memory, executive function, potentially impacting academic performance. I mean, that might have been our issues.
Well, yeah, certainly mine.
Heading the ball too much.
But again, it happens in all sports.
Absolutely.
My big head injury is cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't have to be football. It can be any sport or any walk of life as such. So this is just the FA trying to mitigate that risk, isn't it?
For football, which is a good thing.
Definitely. Developmental sensitivity as well. So children's brains are still developing, making them more susceptible to injury. So, Yeah, so like the structures that support the brain
Yeah.
as well. You snap them back with the head, or with a ball hit to the head, or hitting somebody else's head. I remember, seeing things of players with their heads being shook around so much.
Yeah.
Not so much like being shook as a baby, but a similar sort of thing where a ball hits you.
Yeah.
It still causes damage to the brain.
It's quite scary. I mean, Emmy's swimming. I can remember because she's been playing football while she's been at Fry's now 6 years. And I can remember at 6 because she was playing with current under 14, so they're probably under. And a ball got hit, and she got flu. She flew because she had it, and it was quite scary sitting there. Blah blah blah. And she was, but yeah, so it can happen. So, yeah.
But there's going to be pushback, though, isn't there?
Oh, there's bound to be.
There's going to be people saying, "Oh, what's wrong with this? Why can't you do this?" I mean, how do you answer those people? Obviously, I'll give you the medical reasons. But how? I'll say there's the medical reasons, but then I'd ask you the question: how often does that actually happen?
Deliberately.
To make it something that's worth changing.
I mean, under 7s, under 8s, under 9s. Honestly, if it happens once in the season, I'd be amazed. Under 10s, you're probably looking at every other game. Now I'm getting towards under 11s because again, where it's going, because this under 11s won't be allowed to head it, but you'll be on a 9v9 pitch. Well, if you can't put the ball in the air to head on a 9v9 pitch, that's why that rule's going to change. Because at the moment at under 9s, under 11s on the 9v9, I think it will happen a few times in the game because the pitch is that much bigger. You've got to move that ball. A lot of teams, you'll try and pass it, but if you're defending under pressure, how do you get rid of the ball? If they will try to kick it upfield.
Well, this is what I was talking to you about earlier, where there's going to be the competitive coaches who are just going to say, get the ball in the area. They're not allowed to head the ball away. Cause panic. Get it in there and cause panic.
And again, 9v9, it'll happen. So I think once you come to 9v9 games, it'll probably happen. Whether it would, but the ball will be in the air to head. Whether it gets headed is a different story. But the ball will be, I reckon, a dozen, if not more times in the game, probably 20 to 30.
Because you and I have just finished our under 16 team.
Yeah.
We've just done it for 10 years, and one of the big things we always said to them is, don't get turned.
Yeah.
If the ball, because we've played teams, we've always tried to put it on the ground and play it.
Yeah.
We've faced teams who've put the ball over the top, put the ball behind us. We said, look, get something on it, whether it's your head or your foot or your chest,
anything.
whatever. Don't get turned.
Yeah.
And there's teams who just want to do that, put the ball behind you in
chain. And it was always,
your head is one of the key things of stopping it, isn't it?
And it was always, to be fair, for our team, because we weren't the biggest bunch of lads, was our weak spot. I always thought the long ball over the top. We played nice football. Blah blah blah. The opposition would get the ball, pump it 50 yards. It'd be coming at them. Hang on a minute. They'd either try to head it and it would go not direct because it would go in that, or it would bounce and they're in. So at grassroots football, it'll happen more. And now, like you said, if you've got a keeper, you can pump that ball into the opposition half. By the time you said chest, whatever, it gives the attacking time more team to get there.
And the defending coach is saying, get something on it. Usually the head.
Yeah. So that's out of the question. And so again, how you training them. So instead of training them to head, you're then going back 3 and right off. Well, not being funny, how many grassroots players, and again you're looking at this is the female game as well, the chest area. Really? Is that going to happen? But even if there's less control, and where's it going to go on the chest?
Yeah.
Right, so you put your attacker go 3-4 yards away from them. They've either got a chest and it's coming back to you, or they let it go and you can run on.
Yeah.
And that's the style of football that you're going to get.
Yeah. It's going to lead to more long ball football.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hit and chase it to begin with.
I think it'll carry on.
I think if it carries on, it goes to
I think it will.
60.
I think there'll be coaches who will look to circumvent
Yeah.
it in any way they not circumvent it because they can't get around the non-heading. They'll look to find that competitive edge.
Yeah, of course they will. And I think once it's into the 10-year plan, if that's the FA plan and that is the general thing. Again, teams like they do now, generally the long ball teams do get found out against the better skillful teams.
They do, but not until a lot older.
No.
It tends not to be
it'd
our
be
age now and our age younger. If you're just a team who relies on skill and passing, long ball teams tend to beat you.
Yeah.
No matter, and you look at your team, so you really sorry, we were the better team.
You played better football,
You just kicked it.
Yeah.
And it's rubbish to look at. But
they're not learning.
But now you're not allowed to head the ball away even, so you've got even less chance of stopping these long ball teams. And I think it's going to possibly end up producing more long ball teams.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, yeah, I can see it happening. Again, I think they will develop the rules.
How? Stop people playing long ball?
Well,
You're now allowed, because we'll go into the rules in the next
I
episode.
reckon that they could also do it isn't above head height and keep the smaller pitches.
How can you implement that when you've got players in your team alone, possibly a foot difference between them?
Yeah.
How does the referee look around and go, oh, well, I've got to judge that. Or was that above your height?
We'll get
or my
into the
height,
second
or
half. I
left
think
side?
the referees. This is going to be a nightmare for referees.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it'll be an absolute. The way the current rules are. Or again, I think it might be like they'll end up going like they do at goals, where I think it's whatever that
that bar is, right?
Yeah.
But we haven't got bars around pitches.
No, so they will have a referee will say whatever height, 4 foot.
My height, I said to ref.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course he's referee, but 4 foot, and then roughly 4 foot's that. Yeah, so it's going to be. I mean, it's going to. But I don't. That might be a way of they stopping the long ball game. But again, the long ball game is a game of when they develop. So
But
it's
the long ball is the legitimate pass. It hasn't got to be a long ball as such. It's still a pass.
pass. Yeah.
I don't think they can do that.
There's,
That's the problem.
otherwise, like you said, all you're going to get is almost.
And
like,
it's a corner.
Yeah.
That's a long ball.
how they're going to manage corners is.
But I'm saying they won't. So there'll be people who will find the competitive edge around this, and you're going to see, I think, scores just go wild in some teams where it wouldn't have had they been allowed to head the ball away.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, the corners. They say now it'll be. I think you're going to get more injuries as well because instead of headers and hitting it, generally, if they try to hit a ball in for a corner for a header, it goes all the way out for throwing the other side. Just be turned out. Now managers will be saying, right, you want to hit it about 4 foot and just blast it hard and try and get a deflection in.
Yeah.
About that height, with knee, around chest height, knee height, and it'll just be blasted hard. And again, if balls are coming in hard from corners, 2 players are going to kick it.
Someone's going to kick the other.
So
Yeah.
that could potentially be happening. And like I said, we'll get on to the second part. I feel so sorry for the refs in this rule because I think they can, again, deliberate header and stuff like that. If it's going in and it hits somebody's head, one manager's bound to say it's a deliberate header.
And one's going to say not.
It's just hitting.
And the ref's got to decide was that deliberate or not.
Yeah. And anything from under 11s down, how the dude are they going to know? And it's,
Well, as the ref, as the sole arbiter of the game.
Yeah, if he's treated fairly. And again,
make
this is
that
going
decision.
back where the FA is wanting to encourage young refs. Non-competitive, obviously you can't publish scores, but even at under 7s, they allow 8 weeks of competitive football in cups. You've got to get that. It's either one or.
Yeah.
But
No VAR, so it's going to be a very interesting one.
my niece. She's broke. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've pretty much summed up the reasons behind it and our thoughts around it. Do you have any more you want to say about the reasoning behind it?
I think
implementation of it.
I think the reasoning of it is logical.
Yeah.
I hope there's a further long-term, like I said, a further long-term plan with it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it'll work this season, but I get why they've done it.
Yeah. I think this season's going to be interesting because Not so much for the under 7s, maybe, because they've had it for the summer. It was introduced at the start of the summer, so they've had a summer to kind of learn it.
Yeah.
But under 8s and under 9s, who've been playing one way for the last year or last 2 years, have suddenly had to change that. And some teams wouldn't have been doing heading anyway, but some
No,
will
I mean,
have.
and your
Some will have headed.
example. I mean, for your under 8, under 9s this year, they've got the new rule of 5v5 now going to 7v7.
Yeah.
Again, a bigger pitch, more players. The complicated. I mean, again, we can go back to, in theory, if the ball's in hand, you don't retreat.
Yes.
So again, that will encourage, instead of if the players were allowed to retreat, like you roll it out to your defender, right, you can't retreat, you got it in hand,
Kick it.
you're going to have to kick it, otherwise we can get it out.
Yeah. Kick it in the air. Yeah. Which I think we'll probably end up going to talk about in the next next episode. All right, Mark. I think we'll call this episode here. And listeners, we're going to do a bit more in the next episode about the actual implementation of this rule. So please tune in 2 weeks' time. But for now, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy, and listeners, and
Good night, and we'll see you next time.
see you next time.
If you like this podcast, then please email us your questions, comments, random thoughts, anything you want to share with us at greengrassroots@gmail.com. You can contact Mark and Andy through X at Fry Club JFC or Ben at Red Falcon JFC, on Facebook via Fry Club Junior FC or Red Falcon Sport. The Fry Club JFC website is www.fryclubjfc.co.uk and the Red Falcon Insta page is at Red Falcon JFC. You could also type out a fantastic review on Apple Podcasts or give us 5 stars on Spotify. You've been listening to a We Haven't Got a Clue What We're Doing production, produced and edited by Andy Glover.